WHO's recommendation that came out yesterday was that for symptomatic patients with COVID-19 infection, they should stay isolated for a minimum of 10 days, of which 3 of the days should be symptom-free before these patients can be safely discharged without the need for any further testing. In asymptomatic patients, they would just recommend 10 days straight off, simply because these patients do not have any symptoms at all. So WHO's recommendation, in fact, is for 10 days. Based on the evidence that has been presented to us, both from NCID together with the chapter of Infectious Disease Physicians Academy of Medicine Singapore, and the international evidence coming out from countries like Germany, Korea, and other countries as well, we are confident that the data is showing consistently that patients with COVID-19 infection will pass a certain time point where they will not be infectious anymore, and that time point is probably somewhere in the 10-day, 11-day mark. However, we have an abundance of caution that we've exercised, and this is because of our commitment to the community to make sure that as we return COVID-19 infected patients back into the community, we want it to be a safe process such that there should not be any concern for further spread of infection from these individuals to other members in the community. This was the same approach the same principle that we had followed when we previously had advocated the protocol involving 2 consecutive negative swab tests before we discharge patients. So while the evidence and the recommendations are to isolate patients for at least 10 days, we have taken the precaution of, in fact, continue to keep them through to 21 days before we isolate them, and then subsequently let them either return to home or return to where the original place of residence was. Even then, we would recommend a further leave of absence for these individuals for another 7 days before they actually return back to work, to ensure that they fully recover and they're ready, therefore, for returning back to work without any problems at all. So it's already with an abundance of caution that we have put together a protocol that allows us now to safely move away from needing to test every individual before we discharge them. And the duration that we continue to keep them isolated is, in fact, much longer than even what the WHO recommends. And this is so as to assure ourselves that when these individuals return to the community, they are well. As part of our protocol, we also want to take the precaution that for those who are having conditions that suppress their immune system, we would still, at this point in time, use the current protocol we have, which is still to test them to make sure that they have negative results before we let them go home. And this is simply because these individuals, being immunosuppressed, may not behave in the same way as others when it comes to dealing with an infection and recovering. But by and large, for the majority of people who are infected with COVID-19 infection, we are now confident that we can use a time-based protocol and let them be discharged after that 21 days without needing further testing.